and find your way to tabletop. Make sure your hands are in line with your shoulders, knees are in line with your hips. Slowly start to rotate your hips in one direction, making circles with your hips. Pause in the middle, and then rotate in the opposite direction. And find stillness. Make sure your knees are in line with your hips, and slowly start to walk your hands out in front of you. Bring your forehead or your chin to the mat. Come into puppy dog pose. Feel the stretch in your back. Remember to breathe here. We're here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And slowly rise back up to tabletop. Bring your knees out wide, big toes together, sink your hips back. Bring your forehead to rest on the mat, come into child's pose. Feel the weight of your hips pulling down towards your heels and the mat. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And then walk your hands over to the right side of the mat. Stretch out through your left side body. You have the option to stay here, or you can stack your left hand on top of your right. We're here for 3 more cycles of breath. And slowly walk your hands back to center. Pause here. And slowly start to walk your hands over to the left side of your mat. Option to stay here or stack your right hand on top of your left. Breathe into the stretch in your right side body. Keep your hips sinking down towards your heels. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And slowly walk your hands back to center. Pause here. And slowly make your way up to tabletop. Ground down through your right hand and your right knee. Step your left foot back behind you. Extend your right arm overhead. You have the option to stay here or lift that left leg up to hip level. Flex your foot. Stay nice and tall. Shoulder blades pull together, opening through your heart. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. Try to stay nice and steady. Lower your left hand down to the mat. Bring your left knee down to the mat. Ground down through your left hand and your left knee. Step your right foot behind you. Reach your right arm overhead. You have the option to stay here or lift your right foot off the mat. Bring it to hip level. Flexing out through your right foot. Squeeze your shoulder blades together, opening through your heart. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. Lower your right hand back to the mat and your right knee back to the mat. Bring your knees out wide, big toes together, sink back to child's pose. Pause here. Take a few slow, deep breaths. And come back up to tabletop. Place your right foot on the outside edge of your right hand. Set up here, make sure your wrists are in line with your shoulders. Your toes can be pointing towards the top of your mat. Tuck your left toes, lift your left knee off the mat, and slowly wiggle your left foot back. Drop your left knee back down to the mat, untuck your toes. We're in a wide, low lunge. Breathe here. And slowly sink your hips back. Start to straighten your right leg. Bow in towards your chest. Feel the stretch in your right hamstring. Stay here for 2 more slow, deep breaths. And slowly start to bend into your right knee. Come forward, stretch out through your left hip flexor. Take 2 slow, deep breaths here. And sink your hips back, straighten your right knee. Bow in towards your chest. Stretch out through your right hamstring. Take 1 more slow, deep breath here. And slowly start to bend into your right knee. Wiggle your right foot between your hands. Set up for a low lunge here. Slowly bring your hands to your hips, your chest up, rise up. Extend your arms overhead. Come into crescent lunge. Pause here. Stay nice and tall for your crown. You should feel a deep stretch in your left hip flexor. And squeeze your shoulder blades together. Come into cactus arms. Opening through your heart. Gaze can be up towards the ceiling. Make sure your weight is in the heel of your right foot. And extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Pause here. And hug your shoulder blades together. Bring your arms out to cactus arms. Opening through your heart. Gaze up towards the ceiling. And extend your arms overhead. Pause here. Lower your right arm behind you, left arm in front of you. Twist open to the right side. Arms are parallel to the mat. Stay here for another deep breath. And bring your arms back overhead. Come into crescent lunge. Bring your hands back down to frame your front foot. Tuck your left toe. Bring your left knee off the mat. Step back to plank. Pause here. Tighten through the core. Tighten through your quads. And slowly lower all the way down to the mat. Untuck your toes. Hands are under your shoulders. Flex your quads. Push down through the tops of your feet. Peel your heart off the chest. Come in, or off the mat. Come into cobra. Lower your chest back down to the mat. Tuck your toes. And slowly push yourself back to down dog. Pause here. If this is your first down dog of the day, go ahead and pedal your feet. Maybe come up onto your tippy toes or try to sink your heels down lower to the mat. Just take a moment to play here, explore. And then when you're ready, lower your knees back down to the mat, come into tabletop. Place your left foot on the outside of your left hand. Make sure your wrists are in line with your shoulders. Index fingers are pointing towards the top of your mat. Tuck your right toes under, lift your right knee off the mat, wiggle your foot back, lower your right knee back down to the mat, untuck your toes. Set up here. Toes are pointing towards the top of the mat. You should feel a stretch in your right hip flexor. And slowly sink your hips back, stretch out through your left leg, bow in towards your chest. Feel the stretch in your left hamstring. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And slowly bend your left knee, come forward, come into wide, low lunge. Feel the stretch in your right hip flexor. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And slowly sink your hips back, straighten your left leg, bowing towards your chest. Soften in. We're here for 2 more cycles of breath. And slowly bend the left knee, come back into wide low lunge. Wiggle your foot between your hands. Set up for crescent lunge. Bring your hands to your hips, slowly lift your heart up, rise up. Feel the stretch in your right hip flexor. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Gaze can be straight forward or up towards the ceiling. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Bring your hands out to cactus arms. Open through your heart, gaze up towards the ceiling. And stretch your arms overhead. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And then squeeze your shoulder blades together. Bring your arms out to cactus arms. Opening through your heart, gaze up towards the ceiling. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And then extend your arms overhead. Slowly lower your left arm behind you, right arm in front of you. Bring your arms parallel to the mat, twist open to the left side. few slow, deep breaths here. And slowly come back to center. Raise your arms overhead. Pause here. And slowly lower your hands down to frame your front foot. Tuck your right toes. Lift your right knee off the mat. Ground down through your hands. Step back to plank. Flex your quads, tighten through your core. And slowly lower all the way down to the mat. Untuck your toes. Come into cobra or up dog. And exhale back to down dog. Pause here. Take a few slow, deep breaths. And extend your right leg overhead. Come into three-legged dog. Bring your right heel towards your buttocks, opening your hip. Fan your hip open. Make sure you have even weight in your hands and your foot. And extend your right leg long. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet and slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Slowly lower your right arm behind you, left arm in front of you. Bring your arms parallel to the mat, twist open to the right side. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And rise back up to high lunge. Anchor your left heel down. Bring your arms parallel to the mat, sink into your right front knee. Come into warrior 2. Gaze over your front fingers. Pause here. Flip your front palm. Slowly lift your right arm overhead. Left arm sinks down your left leg. Come into reverse warrior. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Stretching out through your right side body. And then rise back up to warrior 2. Bend your right elbow. Place your right forearm on your right thigh. Extend your left arm overhead or in line with your ear. Come into extended side angle. Option to stay here or drop your right hand down to the mat or a block or take a bind if that's in your practice. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And slowly rise back up, come into warrior 2. Start to straighten your right leg. Turn your right toes parallel to your left, pointing towards the long side of your mat, and bring your hands to your hips. Pause here. And slowly hinge at your hips. Keep your back nice and straight. Lower all the way down. Place your hands on the mat. Come into wide-legged fold. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Keep your right hand on the mat. Extend your left arm overhead. Twist open to the left side. You can keep your arm extended overhead or tuck it behind your back if that's more comfortable for you. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. Make sure you have a micro bend in your knees. And then go ahead and lower your left hand back down to the mat. Keep your left hand on the mat. Extend your right arm overhead. Twist open to the right side. Your right arm can be overhead, or you have the option to tuck it behind your back. Gaze over your right shoulder. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And then slowly lower your right hand back down to the mat and bow forward. Inhale, straighten your spine, halfway lift. Exhale, bow forward. Slowly walk your hands over to your right. Twist your right toes towards the top of the mat. Spin off your left heel, come into low lunge. Ground down through the palms of your hands and step back to plank. Flex your quads, tighten through your core. You have the option to take a chaturanga here, or we will all meet in down dog. So if you're going to lower down, come into cobra or up dog. Exhale, push back to down dog. Pause here. Lift your left leg high in the air. Bring your left heel to your buttocks. Fan open through the left side of your hip. Make sure your hands are evenly distributing the weight of your body. And extend your left leg long, come into 3-legged dog. Pause here. And exhale, thread it through, come into low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Pause here. And slowly twist open to the left side. Bring your left arm behind you, right arm in front of you, parallel to the mat. Pause here. Feel strong through that back leg. Flex your quad. And then turn back to center. Extend your arms overhead. Come into high lunge. Anchor your right heel down. Extend your arms out parallel to the mat. Sink into the left knee. Come into warrior 2. Gaze over your left fingers. Flip your front palm. Reverse your warrior. Feel the stretch in your left side body. Gaze up over your left fingers. And slowly wimble your hands back to warrior 2. Bend your left elbow. Place your left forearm on your left thigh. Extend your right arm overhead or in line with your ear. Option to stay here or drop your left hand down to the mat, or take a bind if that's in your practice. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And slowly rise back up to warrior 2. Straighten your left leg. Turn your left toes towards the long side of your mat, parallel to your right foot. Bring your hands to your hips. Slowly fold forward. Bring your peace fingers, or wrap them around your big toe. So the Index finger and your middle finger wrap around your big toe. Inhale, halfway lift, spine long. Exhale, fold forward. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And release your hands down to the mat. Slowly walk your hands to the top of your mat, bend into your left knee, spin your right heel off the mat, come into low lunge. Plant your hands down on the mat and step back to plank. Flex your quads, tighten your core. You have the option to meet in down dog, or you can take a chaturanga. So lower all the way down. Come into cobra or up dog. And exhale back to down dog. Take a moment to pause here. And then slowly walk your hands up to meet, or your feet up to meet your hands, hands to your feet, and fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Bring your big toes together. Leave a little space between your heels and sink your hips down, come into chair pose. Take a big inhale here. Grow nice and tall through your spine. And on your exhale, hook your left elbow to the outside edge of your right thigh. Twist open to the right side. You have the option to keep your hands at heart center or drop your left hand to the mat, right arm overhead. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And fold forward, place your hands on the mat. Straighten your legs. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Big toes together, a little space between your heels. Slowly sink your hips down, come into chair pose. Grow nice and tall on your inhale. And on your exhale, hook your right elbow to the outside edge of your left thigh. Twist open to the left side. Option to stay here or drop your right hand down to the mat, left arm overhead. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And start to straighten your legs, bring your hands to the mat, fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, your right knee in towards your chest. Root down through your left foot. Pause here. And slowly start to hinge forward. Kick your right foot behind you, come into warrior 3. You have the option to stay here or stretch your arms out in front of you. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And slowly lower your hands down to the mat. Stretch your right leg overhead. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Kick that right foot up towards the ceiling. And slowly start to rise back up, if you can. Without touching down, bring your right knee back up towards your chest. Pause here. And bring your right ankle over your left knee. Sink down, come in to standing figure 4. Find a focal point. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And slowly start to straighten that left leg. Place your right foot back down on the mat. Go ahead and shake your feet out. Take a deep breath. Inhale, circle, sweep arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Root down through your right foot. Lift your left knee in towards your chest. Hands at heart center. Pause here. Slowly start to tilt forward. Kick your left foot behind you. Left leg is in line with your hip. Coming into warrior 3. You have the option to stay here or stretch your arms out in front of you. Try to tighten your quads, tighten your glutes. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And slowly lower your hands down to the mat. Kick your left leg high in the air, come into standing split. Try to lift that left leg higher in the air. Grounding down through your right foot. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And slowly try to rise up without touching that left foot to the mat. Bring your left knee back up towards your chest. And cross your left ankle over your right knee. Sink your hips low, come into standing figure 4 on the opposite side. Pause here. And then slowly start to straighten your right knee and release your left foot down to the mat. Go ahead and shake your feet out. Inhale, circle sweep arms to sky. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shins, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Plant your hands down on the mat and step back to plank. Tighten your quads, tighten through your core. You can take a vinyasa here or we will all meet in down dog. So lower down to bent elbows, come in to cobra or up dog. Exhale, back to down dog. Inhale, reach your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Anchor your left heel down, spin open, come into warrior 2. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Slowly rise back up to warrior 2. Start to straighten your front leg. Hinge at your hips. Reach your right hand down to your shin or the mat. Come into triangle. Pause here for 2 more deep breaths. And bend into your right knee. Slowly come back to warrior 2. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. And slowly start to kick that left leg high in the air, come into standing split. Pause here. You have the option to stay here or reach that right hand back and grab your left foot, kicking out through your left foot into your right hand. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And lower your hand back down to the mat. Lower your left foot back down to the mat. Fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Plant your palms down on the mat. Step back to plank. Tighten through your quads. You have the option to take a vinyasa or meet back in down dog. So lower all the way down. Come into cobra or up dog. Exhale back to down dog. Extend your left leg high in the air. Thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Anchor your right heel down, spin open, come into warrior 2. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Pause here. Slowly rise back up to warrior 2. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot, spin off your back heel. Slowly put your weight into your left foot, kick your right foot overhead, come into standing split. Option to stay here or reach your left hand back, grab your right foot, kick out through your right foot. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. Release your foot down to the mat. Come into a forward fold. Heel toe your feet to the edges of the mat. Toes pointing out, heels together, and slowly sink your hips down. Bring your hands to heart center, come in to Malasana, or yogi squat. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. Release your hands back down to the mat. Start to straighten your legs. Lift your hips up towards the sky. Slowly heel toe your feet together. Forward fold. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your hands back down and step back to down dog. Take a pause here. And slowly lift your right leg high in the air. Bring your right knee to your right wrist. Set up for pigeon. Walk your left foot back. Keep your left foot straight towards the back of the mat. You have the option to tuck your toes under, your toes pointing towards the back of your left side of your mat, or you can bring your right ankle towards your left wrist. Stay nice and tall through your spine. Slowly lower your heart down towards the mat. You can stack your hands, bring your head to rest on the mat or your arms. Settle in. Feel the stretch in your right outer hip. Focus in on your breath. If you feel any discomfort rise, try to soften in with your breath. We're here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. Start to rise up onto the palms of your hands. Tuck your left toes under. Your left knee off the mat. Step back to down dog. Pause here. Stretch your left leg high in the air. Bring your left knee to your left elbow. Set up for pigeon. Walk your right foot back towards the back of your mat. Make sure your foot is in line with your leg, not sickling in. Stay nice and tall through your spine. Slowly lower your chest down to the mat. Your head can rest on the mat or your hands. Soften in. Feel the stretch in your left outer hip. Remember to breathe here. We're here for 1 more deep breath. Slowly start to rise up. Bring your hands to the mat. Tuck your right toes under. Step your left foot back. Come into down dog. Take 1 more deep breath here. And then lower your knees down to the mat. Make sure your knees are in line with your hips. Slowly rise up, standing on your knees. Place your hands on your lower back or sacrum. Squeeze your shoulder blades together, elbows in towards each other. And slowly start to sink your hips forward, opening through your chest. Come in to camel. You have the option to stay here or place your hands on your heels. Push out through your hips, open through your chest. Head can come back. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And slowly bring your hands back to your sacrum and stay up nice and tall. Place your hands on the mat, come into tabletop. Bring your knees out wide, big toes together, sink your hips back, come into child's pose. Pause here. Reach your right arm high in the air and thread it under your body. Bring it over towards your left side. Place your right cheek on the mat, gazing over your right fingers. Feel the stretch, your right shoulder. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. to child's pose. Extend your left arm overhead, thread it under your body. Place your left hand over towards your right side. Bring your left cheek to the mat, gaze over your left fingers. Feel the stretch in your left shoulder. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And bring your left arm back out in front of you. Sink back to child's pose. Slowly rise up to tabletop. Cross your shins. Ground down through your sits bones. Interlace your fingers behind you. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Take a few slow, deep breaths here, opening through your heart. And release your hands. Place your hands on your knees. Pause here, sit up nice and tall. Place your right hand down on the ground next to your right hip. Extend your left arm over your ear. Stretch out through your left side body. Gaze can be up towards the ceiling, opening through the heart. And slowly rise back up to center. Place your left hand on the mat. Start to stretch your right arm overhead, bring it in line with your ear. Gaze up towards the ceiling. Stretch out through your right side body. And slowly lower your right hand back down to the mat. Place the soles of your feet on the mat, knees up towards the ceiling, and slowly lower all the way down to a supine position. Pause here. Bring your soles of your feet down to the mat, ankles in line with your knees, hands are in line with your hips. Slowly start to lift your hips up towards the ceiling, squeeze through your glutes, come into bridge pose. You have the option to stay here or interlace your fingers, walk your shoulder blades together. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And release your hands. Slowly lower all the way down to the mat. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly lift your hips up towards the ceiling. You have the option to stay here or raise your right leg high in the air. Bring it straight. Ground down through your left sole of your foot. Stay nice and steady. Stay with me for 2 more deep breaths. And lower your right foot down down to the mat. Bring your hips back down to the mat. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly lift your hips up towards the ceiling. You have the option to stay here or lift that left leg high in the air. Straighten it up towards the ceiling. Ground down through your right foot. Stay nice and steady. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And lower your left foot back down to the mat. Lower your hips back down to the mat. You can go ahead and windshield wiper your knees from side to side if that feels good. And come back to stillness in the middle. Extend both feet overhead. You have the option to stay here in legs up the wall, or you can take any inversion you would like. If you want to follow along with me, we're going to go into plow pose. But you can take shoulder stand, you can take legs up the wall, actually at the wall. It's your practice. You do what works for you. You're going to come into plow. Slowly start to lift your hips off the mat. Bring your feet behind you to touch the mat. You can walk your shoulder blades together. Place your hands on your sacrum. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. If at any time this becomes uncomfortable, please come out of the position and take a different inversion, whether it's legs up the wall or just come into a relaxing position for you, whether that's hugging your knees into your chest. This should not be uncomfortable. Stay here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And release your hands to the mat. Slowly lower your back down to the mat. Bring your hips down to the mat. And finally, bring your soles of your feet down to the mat. You can go ahead and windshield wiper your knees from side to side. And hug both knees in towards your chest. Maybe rock side to side if that feels good. Anchor your arms out to a T. Slowly drop your knees over to the left side of your mat. Gaze over your right shoulder. Come into supine twist. You have the option to place your left hand on the outside edge of your right thigh. We're here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And slowly lift your knees back to center. Engage your core. Arms out to a T. Slowly drop your knees over to the right side. Gaze over your left shoulder. Supine twist, second side. Option to place your right hand on your left thigh. Stay here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. Engage your core and slowly lift your knees back to center. Hug your knees into your chest. Maybe rock side to side if that feels good. Maybe reach reach for the outside edges of your feet. Come into happy baby. Pulling your knees down towards the mat. At this time, I invite you to do any asana you need to do to complete your practice today. When you're ready, hug your knees into your chest and find your way into Shavasana. Maybe place a bolster under your knees. Maybe place your legs up the wall. Whatever you need today, go ahead and set up. Lift your palms up. Close your eyes. And just melt into the mat. Let everything go. Focus in on your breath. Scan your body. Take notice of any changes in your body, in your breath, in your mood. Just take notice and then let them, all those feelings and sensations, drift away. Softening into the mat. Feel the weight of your head relaxing into the ground, softening in through your eyes, softening your forehead, softening between your eyes, relaxing your jaw and your tongue, softening in through your neck and your shoulders, through your upper arms, relaxing your hands and your fingers, softening your hips, softening through your hamstrings and your knees, relaxing your quads, relaxing your calves and your shins, relaxing your ankles and your feet, relaxing through your toes, feeling the weight of your body press in to the ground. Slowly start to deepen your breath. Bring some movement to your fingers and your toes. Maybe circle your wrists and your ankles. Maybe hug your knees into your chest and rock side to side. And make your way over to your right side. Pause here. Take a slow, deep breath in. And an exhale. And make your way up to an easy seated position. Close your eyes and bring your hands to heart center. Take a moment to honor yourself for showing up and practicing, for taking a moment to pause and connect with your breath and your body, for practicing self-awareness and self-care. Thank you for showing up and sharing your practice with me. The light in me sees and honors the light in each one of you. Namaste.